Be'ez Hashem, Rabbi Isa, we're going to start now the halachas of Kli Sheme achto le'isa. Okay. Very chashuv. What's that? It's very chashuv this, by the way, because a lot of the things that you have and you deal with and you touch and you handle are going to be included in this category. And a lot of people, I was going to say most, which is probably correct, but I'm going to say a lot of people have this mistakenly organized that they think this is okay. We're going to now clarify all the halachas be'ez Hashem. It's important for a person to know what is mutter, what's asa, how, what, when, and why, which is what we're going to discuss be'ez Hashem right now. So the Mishnah, Shabbos Kuf Chav Dalet, talks about Kol HaKelim L'Toim L'Tzoyrich V'Shaloi L'Tzoyrich. Nehemiah came along and told us that it can only be taken L'Tzoyrich. What does this mean? Let's explain Rabbi said very carefully. For those of you writing that down, get ready, there's a lot to write today. Shitas Rabbah. Rabbah in the Gemara says, what does it mean? A Kli Sheme achto leheta can be moved l'tzoyrich gufay and l'tzoyrich mekaymai. It's a Kli Sheme achto le'isa can only be moved l'tzoyrich gufay mekaymai, but not l'tzoyrich can move l'tzoyrich and l'tzoyrich gufay, but not l'tzoyrich mekaymai. Shitas Rava is a Kli Sheme achto leheta. L'tzoyrich means l'gufay and mekaymai, and shaloi l'tzoyrich means mechama l'tzel. Mechama l'tzel means moving it from the sun into the shade. If something is going to get ruined in the sun and I move it from the sun into the shade, is that l'tzoyrich? It's shaloi l'tzoyrich of Shabbos. I don't need it on Shabbos. I'm doing it for what? For the utensil. So I'm just defining the terms. We'll get into a lot of halachic discussion to talk about how this is nogeh to us halacha l'maisa. Basically, what it comes to is like this. Shulchan Aruch paskins in the beginning of Semen Shinches, okay, Siv Gimel, that a Kli Sheme achto le'isa, which we will explain and define exactly what that is mutter to move l'tzoyrich gufay and l'tzoyrich mekaymai, but not mechama l'tzel. Which means you can only move it for a tzoyrich, which we will get into exactly what that means. Shaloi l'tzoyrich is going to be asa. Maybe it's okay with me, yeah. Maybe it's Yitzchak. You with me? Beautiful. Okay, so that's the halacha. The shaila is number one. What is a Kli Sheme achto le'isa? How do you define a Kli Sheme achto le'isa? You have an idea? A phone. It's a very general category. Is it a kosher phone? Is it a non-kosher phone? Oh, what does it make a difference? That's a great one. Oh, gewaltig. You've been mechaven. What is, number one, what is it? Number two, when can you move it? What are the defined terms of l'tzoyrich gufay mekaymai? And why? What's the difference? L'tzoyrich gufay, l'tzoyrich mekaymai, mechama l'tzel. Like, what's really the difference? So, Rabbi Isa, I want to tell you two pirushim in the achronim exactly why. And it's important sometimes to understand this. The Chai Adam. And Klal Samach Vav writes like this. Says the Chai Adam, it works by kitzoy hadas, meaning like this. What is Muktza? How do you define Muktza? Can anybody just give an idea of how do you define Muktza? What's Muktza? Why? Give me a translation in one sentence. A guy is becoming religious and he says, I want to know Muktza before anything else. I want to understand Muktza. Give me one sentence. What would you say?
Everything's Muktza except a few things.
What does it mean, Muktza? The word Muktza is a new term. He doesn't understand that. What does it get? That's true. But give me an example. Rabbi said, give me a line to explain the yesod of Muktza. No, not what's included in Muktza. What is Muktza?
Something that's not used.
Something that's not used, Shimon. Very good. What does that mean? That means if you're not using something, you set aside your das. I don't need this. And therefore, I can't use it on Shabbos. Comes along the Chai Adam, Rabbi said, Dovi, you with me? Comes along the Chai Adam and says that a person set aside the das of various things not to use because of its issa usage, and it's only mekel l'tzoyrich Shabbos, and therefore says the Chai Adam, a person is only getting rid of his das on something which he cannot use it for, but something he can, he's not getting rid of his das. So for example, to move it from its place, he never set aside his das, because if it's in my way, I would like to move it. And therefore he never set aside his das. You understand? In other words, what the Chai Adam wants to say basically is that a person only thought about not using it for its issa usage, but to move it out of my way, or to use it in a permitted usage, that would be mutter. So the Chai Adam be'etzem holds that it's Muktza according to your das. And the person was never makatsa das from moving it, the tzorich of himself. Whereas the tzorich of the kli, Muhammad etzel, which we'll get into, again we're going to define all of these terms, then he did not think about using it, right? And that's basically the Chai Adam. The Vilna Gaon, the other day, 7 Reish Samach Vav, where the Vilna Gaon says like this. The Vilna Gaon wants to say that Kli Sheme achto l'issa is basically not Muktza. It's not even Muktza. It's not be'etzem, intrinsically Muktza. Right? Why? Because it's mutter, let's say gufa, mekoime. I'm allowed to move it, let's say gufa, let's say mekoime. David, are you with me? The other one. I'm allowed to move a Kli Sheme achto l'issa, which we will define. Let's say gufa, let's say mekoime, which we will define as well. Says the Vilna Gaon, to feed that, it's not Muktza. It's not Muktza. Because I never, it's not Muktza. It wasn't Muktza for that. The only thing that a person decided to make sure not to use it is Mechama Letzel, because that's not the tzorich of the Kli, that's not the tzorich of me, and therefore according to that, basically this Vilna Gaon is also a Ritva, a Ran, B'Shem the Ra'ah, and others as well. Okay? Now, let's get very, very practical. How do we define a Kli Sheme achto l'issa? We're talking, okay, Kli Sheme achto l'issa, Kli Sheme achto. What is a Kli Sheme achto l'issa? Any examples? Anybody want to give us an example? Chaim? Tovi? A pen. Why? What's wrong with the pen? Because you can't do ksiva with it. Okay, any other examples? Kli Sheme achto l'issa, I say. Kli Sheme achto l'issa. Mori. Who? You said that already. We'll have to talk about that. Kosher, not kosher. Big enough kamina. What's that? What's the mayor? What about a car? Oh, very nice. A car's muktzah on Shabbos? Is it? Touch muktzah you're allowed to do. Ramah says that. He was allowed to touch muktzah. But we're talking about moving muktzah. Shabbos may run. What's that? Depends which car, Naftali, you know? I don't know. Which model? It's a big enough kamina. Anyway, I'm going to give you very important klalim. Like I always tell you. I can give you a million examples. But I want to give you the klolim so that if an example comes up that you didn't hear and share, you know what to do because you can fit it into one of the examples. Okay? My mashkiach Rabnach Olu actually always used to say that the greatest thing a Rebbe can do is teach a Talmud to do it on his own. In other words, that you don't always need your Rebbe. Of course you need a Rebbe, but every Rebbe needs a Rebbe. Everyone needs a Rebbe. But apart from that is not that you have to hold his hand his entire lifetime, is to teach a Talmud how to do it on his own. Not always that he requires someone to hold his hand, which is a tremendous aside. So if I would give you the examples, then you would only know these examples. But I'm going to give you the klolim, okay? The klolim are as follows. Listen very, very carefully. The first one, be'etzem, comes from a Rashba, which the Be'alacha brings, and that is any item, any kli, that is specifically used to do something asa on Shabbos, becomes muktzah. So like Daniel said, a pen. A pen is a classic example of a Kli Sheme achto l'issa because it is used to write. And therefore that's considered to be asa. Scissors could be another example of that as well. It's used, a needle, pin and thread and all these sorts of things, a stapler. All of these things are Kli Sheme achto l'issa because the way they are used is be'issa. That's klal number 1, Rabbi say. Okay, clear? Klal number 2. What about an item that is a base for muktzah? Meaning it itself is not muktzah. It doesn't do anything muktzah, but it holds the muktzah. For example, a wallet. A wallet that holds money or credit cards is muktzah, even if there's no credit cards inside it. Because it intrinsically holds muktzah. What about those glass cups that you put from the menorah or for Shabbos candles? Right, the glass cups. And now one's sitting empty on the side. That is muktzah. What do you mean? There's nothing lit. You didn't light a candle before Shabbos. But what's its intrinsic purpose? The purpose of this glass is in order to light fire inside it. So it's a base for muktzah. Anything that holds muktzah or is intrinsically made as a holder for muktzah is considered to be muktzah itself, even if there's nothing inside it. That's klal number 2. Are we clear? Klal number 3, Moshe and Chelik Gimel and Orach Chaim, Simon Mem Tes, talks about this. What about something that number 1 isn't be'etzem muktzah, doesn't do anything also. Number 2, doesn't hold up anything muktzah, but the way its function is through muktzah, it becomes muktzah. What's the example of Moshe brings? A bedside clock. If you've got a clock next to your bed that's plugged into the wall, so the way it works is through electricity, that becomes muktzah. Again, it's a Kli Sheme achto l'issa, which there will be many heterim of what I could do with that. Is that the third klal? Is everybody with me? Jen, yeah? Got it? Okay. You did, yeah? Okay. The last klal that we have to discuss is as follows. The last klal is, even if a kli is not be'etzem asa, and it's not even used for issa, but it's l'tzoirich davar ha'asa, this is a big chiddush, Rabbi say, then it is considered to be asa. Let me give an example which Shlomo Zalman says, a butcher knife. A butcher knife be'etzim isn't intrinsically asa, it's a knife, I can cut cucumbers with it. But he has it, he uses it and sets it aside for what? To cut meat which is for sale. That's Muktza. I'll give you a classic example, a phone book. A phone book could be Muktza. Well, what does it do? What's a phone book Muktza for? Because what do you use a phone book for? To call. Oh, so if it has addresses and you use it for that, that could be okay. I'll give you another example. Oh, this is a Mordecai Shaila. Fella calls me up Erev Shabbos. He's somewhat between a brisker and a Hasidic guy. And he says to me like this. He says to me, he has a chavrusa with someone 3:30 in the morning on a Shabbos morning, as you do. And he wants to learn through the night. He wants to be able to learn. Now, he doesn't have a stender in his home. Not everyone has stenders. He doesn't have a stender in his home. So he wants to use an ironing board as a stender. This way he can stand up and learn the whole time. Right? Is he allowed? His wife doesn't want it in the room like during the Suda. He wants to bring it after the Suda. Is he allowed to do that? Or is an ironing board Muktza? Now, what does an ironing board do? Nothing. I'm not talking about one in yeshiva that people use as a dining room table. I'm talking about a normal household ironing board that people don't use it for anything other than ironing, which is a normal human being thing to do. Right? Therefore, the question is it Muktza? Morty, what do you say?
No.
It's not Muktza. Why not?
Because he makes it for that.
What do you mean he makes it for that? That's what the company make it for? That's what he bought it for? That's what his wife has it for? That's Muktza. It's a Kli Sheme. No, I didn't say you can't move it. I didn't say that. You just made up that chomer. You want to make up chomers? No problem. You want to make chomers? I don't mind.
It's Muktza.
No, it is Kli Sheme because Roiv Ishtamshus of, which we'll get to, of this ironing board is for ironing. And therefore it's Muktza. Could you move it? Maybe. We'll talk about that in a moment. We'll get to that. When are you allowed to move a Kli Sheme? Remember, until now we've been discussing Muktza Machmas Chesaron Kiss, which there's no heter to move. Now we're discussing something which has a lot of heterim to move. A Kli Sheme, whatever fits into that category, has heterim to move. Before we get to the heterim, what's koveya? What's koveya? Something to be Kli Sheme. Okay, now here's a Modika Mogen Avram. The Mogen Avram in Shin Chesed Kotten Hey Be'etzem Tzalpi, the Rashba which the Be'alacha brings. And that is as follows. Says the Mogen Avram, what about a Kli that's miyuchad? It's specially made and most people use it for Issa. But it also has a heter shtamshus. I'll give you a most classic example. A pot. Is a pot Muktza? I'm talking about an empty pot. Is it Muktza on Shabbos? A regular cooking pot. Huh?
It should be.
Why should it be Muktza? Because it's used for cooking. But it's also used storing. Sometimes people even use it as a mixing bowl. If they haven't got a mixing bowl, they use that, for example. They use to store stuff in the fridge. What's the raiv? What's the majority of this item? Cooking. Therefore, according to the Rashba, that is Muktza on Shabbos. It's a Kli Sheme. So if you have a pot, a pan on the side of your counter on Shabbos, we'll have to discuss when you're allowed to move it. But now, step number one, it is Muktza. It's a Kli Sheme. What's that?
There's food in it.
It is food in it. That could be Muktza because we'll talk about bosses. Yes, you'll be allowed to move it 100%, and you could be allowed to move it even if there's no food inside it, which we'll get to. But pashtus, you have to know number one, it's more. What about brand new? I bought a brand new pot, never been used before. Not for cooking, not for storing, gunished. What do we say?
Same thing.
Same thing, beautiful. You guys machavet to the Prima Godim. Prima Godim says, even if you didn't use it, but since the shtamshus of this Kli is le'isa, Roiv, the majority, a pen, for example. Right? You could use a pen theoretically to point. You could. Right? Somebody asked me this question. He got a chosin pen. Got a chosin. I never heard such a thing before. Chosin, there's such a thing? You know it yet. Okay, you guys don't know yet. You guys don't know yet. You guys haven't entered the sugya. But if you get a chosin pen, no, Morty, this wasn't just a pen. I mean, this was a pen. This was a pen. Is it Mont Blanc? Mont Blanc. There we are. Beautiful. What is that, a car? No. Oh, it's a pen. Are you allowed to move that on Shabbos? I want to show it to someone. I don't do anything also with it. I want to show it to someone. It has a heter shtamshus, right? What about Hashava Saveda? I found it on the floor. I want to pick it up and want to return it to someone. I'm not going to use it. But since the roy the shtamshus of a pen is the issa, this can be problematic. What about an aluminum foil pan? Disposable. Chad pa'ami. Are those Muktza?
No.
Why?
Because it's also like a pot.
It's like a pot and therefore...
A pot is Muktza. Oh, yeah.
So it should be Muktza, right? I'll be honest with you, I don't know, I'm always never sure about a new pan. A new aluminium, just in case you didn't understand. Aluminum pan, chad pami, disposable, said every word to cover every country. Is it, what do you say, you did in Toronto, it's Muktza?
No.
Why not?
It's used more for storage.
It's used more for storage, yeah? You think so? Why do you buy plastic? Why are you buying the metal then? Because you want to put it in the oven, no?
Yeah, no, you store it, then you can still warm it up if you want.
So you're saying warming it up also could be also, it depends if it's a liquid or not.
What if it has multiple purposes?
And anything has multiple purposes, we always look at the right, the majority. If the majority is Issa, it becomes Asa, okay? Okay, so let me get back to that sugya in a moment because it's very, very important. Let me give you some examples, okay? David, you with me? No, gewaldig. Let's move on to some more examples, okay? Okay, let me give you some examples. The you're going to have to look at this week's newsletter to go through the summary of all the halachas, right? Daniel, yeah? Okay, got heavy achrais right now. Okay, let's move on. Sewing needles. A ruler, what's a ruler? My kids are going to kill me, but I think it's a moded. No, you embarrass me. How could you say that on Torah anytime? I think it's a moded, no? I think it's a moded, a ruler. Anyone Israeli? Where's my hello? Ah, okay, fine. Where's the... A ruler is Muktza, why? It makes lines. Keys to start the car. Keys to start the car. Forget the car. The keys to start the car. Are they Muktza?
Probably not.
They are Muktza?
Like a thing that you might go to.
No. I got a complaint, by the way. My daughter just told me this on Shabbos. So she got a phone call recently from someone who called up and says, this family, could you please tell your father that when there's a shaila in Sheikh, could he please mention the shaila? And because people who are listening also want to hear it. So I always choose this one I won't mention, okay? Keys of a car. It's very negative. Sometimes it's on your house bunch. I want to pick up the bunch. Is that Muktza?
Depends where it is. Yeah, it's Muktza. It is Muktza.
Is it Muktza?
Yes.
Which Muktza? This one? Does it have a heter ishtamshus? Does it have a permitted way of using it? What's the permitted way? Huh?
There's keys to the house anymore. If there's keys to the house.
If there's keys to the house, that would be a shadow of bosses on the ring. What about the actual key itself? Naftali, what do you say?
If it's in the way, you're allowed to move.
A lot of halachas here.
If it's in the way, you're allowed to move.
None of it's in the way. Forget about in the way. Does it fall into the category of Kli Sheme Issa or not?
Yes. Does it have that?
It doesn't have a head.
Yes, it does.
What is it?
What do you mean? If there's no battery on, if there's no lights on in the car and I want to open the car, I'm not allowed to open it? Hello?
Cars are like.
If there's no battery, no lights, nothing goes on, I've got something in the car, I'm allowed to open the door with the key? No, alarm goes on, nothing happens. You've removed the engine. You've taken out the whole engine. I did that to my card. All right.
If there's a chip in the key, does it make a difference?
No. Let's move on, Rabbi Isai. A pen, a pencil, a pair of scissors, an umbrella. Kids' toys that make noise, by the way. Kids' toys that make noise, like a rattle. A rattle is Muktza, by the way, you know that. It's Muktza, 100% Muktza. It's Kli Sheme Issa. Could be allowed to move it, it's so good from a koma, we'll talk about. But it's Muktza. Why? Because the Ishtamshus is Ashma Eskal, and we all know the Shulchan Aruch and Siman Shinam Ches, the Ashma Eskal is going to be Asa. And therefore you cannot use those things. A comb. A comb to brush your hair, you know the thing that's Asa to do? Right. So you're not allowed to comb your hair, and therefore you're, end of Siman Shin Gimel. And therefore you're not allowed to touch a comb on Shabbos. It becomes Muktza. A wallet, a purse, a puzzle, a Lego, according to those that hold it's Asa to build those things on Shabbos. Right? A whistle, a bike for sure. What about a gun? Fella calls me up one time. He says to me, Rabbi, my wife gave me permission to get a gun. I'm like, whoa. Okay, we got to talk. So, oh yeah. So he says to me, no, he lives in some place, whatever, some dangerous place, whatever. He wants to get a gun. Is he allowed to get a gun? Is it mutter or also on Shabbos? So Vilashav paskined that a gun is a Kli Sheme Issa. Why? Because what's the roiv hishtamshus of the gun is to kill. Came along with Shlomo Zalman and said, excuse me. Most people, unless you're in the army, but if let's say you're a security guard, right? Security guard outside a shul, security guard outside a mall, security guard, whatever it may be. What's the roiv hishtamshus of the gun? Said Reb Shlomo Zalman in Mincha Shlomo Chedet Beis Lam Dalet. He says very clearly, it's a Kli Sheme It's to scare people off. It's a Kli Sheme in that case. And therefore, according to Shlomo Zalman, it will be mutter. What about laundry clips? You know laundry clips? Old-fashioned little clips that you have in this country. They have it all the time. You know those are Muktza on Shabbos?
Obviously.
Why? Oh, beautiful naftula. Why? Well, they use these things in Flatbush? Nah.
Yeah.
Really?
Used to.
Oh, wow. Why is it Muktza? In the bungalow colony. Why is it Muktza? Why is it Muktza?
I'll do laundry on Shabbos.
Ooh, very good. You know how to do laundry or hang it up on Shabbos. Okay? Rabbi Savasa, it's very, very late. Let's finish with last two things. What about a Kli? Until now, we're talking about a Kli that has both the heta and both the issa. What if it doesn't have heta b'chlal? What if it doesn't have any way of using it but oifen heta and this it? Here we have a machlokes rishonim. I'm going to go very quickly, or at least slow enough that he can write it down. There's a shitas bala ma'or in the Razot that says every Kli Sheme achto le'issa is Muktza mamish. Chazal will make and allow various situations for Ba'if Heta to do it. The Rashba, Shabbos Kufn and Dalet Paskin's not that way. That he wants to tie that the Kli Sheme achto le'issa isn't really Muktza b'chlal. Just Chazal will machme not to move it shaloi l'tzoyrech. But that's only if it has a Heta Shimush. If it doesn't have a Heta Shimush, comes along the Rashba and says it doesn't make it all more muktzah than anything else. It's still mutter, right? So we have a machlekes, the Razal and the Rashba. The Razal learns very simple. Says the Razal, it's a special yesod of a Kli Sheme achto le'issa, which is muktzah mamish. Chazal will make it in certain situations because I could use it by heta. For example, I use a hammer to smash a coconut, so it has a heta ishtamshus. But if there's no heta ishtamshus, comes along the bala ma'or, that's it. There's no heta. Comes along the Rashba is cholik, and the Rashba says, no, it doesn't make a difference. It's be'etzem, not muktzah. They were machmer not to move it. Shaloi l'tzoyrech. How do we paskin halacha and amaisa? A lot of poskim will make it like the Rashba, that even if there's no tzad heta b'chlal, it's still mutter to move l'tzoyrech gufa makoymai. And as always, the steamer's lashon of Shulchan Aruch and the Magen Avraham and the Balatanya in Shulchan Aruch Harav and the Beis Meir and the Tosfos Shabbos and as always paskin Ravaz and Shevet Alevi, Igros Moshe and Shmir Shabbos. Which means, according to most poskim, even in a situation where I do not have any heta bichlal because it doesn't have a heta, right? For example, I don't know, a phone. A phone has a heta? No. So who told you a phone is a Kli Sheme achto le'issa to begin with? It doesn't have any heta ishtamshus. A pen has a heta ishtamshus. You don't have to scratch my back. A pen doesn't have a heta ishtamshus. Memele lefi the poskim that hold that it has to have a heta ishtamshus. If it does not, then it's not a Kli Sheme achto le'issa. So now I have to look at every single Kli Sheme achto le'issa and see la halacha l'maisa. However, the Ran, the Rashba, the Kivega, the Pim God, the Chazon Ish, the Aruch HaShulchan, the Avnei Nezer, and others as well, hold no. We make it. What's enough kamina? It does. It doesn't. They don't make it like the Rashba. It doesn't make a difference as long as it's a Kli Sheme achto le'issa. Even if it doesn't have a heter ishtamshus, you can be mekel. The achro of most poskim l'maisa, Yishleim Zalman, Rav Elyashiv. The Osnidra and other poskim that hold the chatchila, we should treat it muktzah machmas gufoy if it does not have a heter ishtamshus. However, b'mokim tzoyrech, b'shas tzoyrech, you can treat it as a Kli Sheme achto le'issa, which means that according to many poskim, if you have an item that's a Kli Sheme achto le'issa that we've been saying until now, but it has no heter ishtamshus, meaning a car key we said does have a heter ishtamshus, a hammer does have a heter ishtamshus, but like a pot has a heter ishtamshus, but there are certain things that do not. They have absolutely no heter ishtamshus. So then there's a mokim to be machme in that case. And the last thing, Rabbi Sai, is just to remember before we finish today, is what we have to do is start this tomorrow by Riches, is what are the heterim. Okay, so now we know what's a Kli Sheme achto le'issa. What am I allowed to do? When am I allowed to move it? When am I not allowed to move it? Which Be'ez Hashem we will do tomorrow. Be'ez Hashem Yisborach.